lot to talk about. Happy Sunday. As you know, unless you've been living under a rock, on Friday, the Supreme Court overturned Roe V Wade. Some people ask me how this came to be. Like, what was being heard in the court that led to this? And it was actually hard to sort of figure it out, because it says Dobbs versus, I think it was Jackson, Mississippi abortion clinic. And so it was the state. Dobbs is the director of the health department for the state of Mississippi. So it was him versus the abortion clinic, which seemed odd because it seemed like the abortion clinic should have been suing the state. But this was one of many rounds of legal battles that they had been through. And I think in the end, it was the state that was suing, countersuing sort of. So what happened was Mississippi had an abortion ban after 15 weeks. The abortion clinic, the only one in the state actually, said that was unconstitutional because Roe v. Wade said that abortions could only be banned prior to viability, and they felt 15 weeks was not viability, that 24 weeks should have been. So this is the crux of the original case. This is where it came from. So the abortion clinic wanted a longer period of time to be able to abort babies. So the state, to fight for their law, this ended up going through several court systems and finally got to the Supreme Court. So when the Supreme Court went through and they used other rulings as precedent, including Roe v. Wade and Casey, and they went through these and looked at them, and then the final judgment was basically this: there is not a right to abortion in the U.S. Constitution, and that these decisions need to be decided on the state level. That's it. That's all that it said. So, pro-life people, I understand that they consider this a victory, but it only moved the needle in certain states where they had trigger laws into effect, which means if Roe v. Wade was overturned, their laws went into effect. So I think it's 13 states, and in those 13 states, from what I've been able to research, it seems as though every one of those states has life of the mother still included as a reason for abortion. They do not allow elective abortions. Life of the mother and a case of reported rape. So the rape has to be reported in those states, and they vary. I mean, that's the limit, but they have varying laws that go around them too. So that's basically what happened. So watching the outcry, and I'm going to tell you, so today I'm not going to comment on what's being commented here. I'm not going to respond to comments that are here. I will read them. I always read them. But I want everyone to have an opportunity to say what they think or feel without it being countered. So I'm not going to counter anything. Not going to agree to anything either. I'm just going to allow people to post their comments and feelings as we go, and I will read them later. I just don't want to get into a battle here because the differences aren't being resolved here today, but I'm just going to talk about what I have seen as a reaction to what has been said. So one of the first things that I have seen is these companies, the companies that are always on the social justice bandwagon, that pay their employees very, very little, and they don't give them great benefits to begin with. But man, when it comes time for social justice, they're right in front pretending that they just love their people. So you have these companies like Dick's Sporting Goods and Amazon and some of these other companies that say that they will, if their state, now remember, this just means that the control of the laws surrounding abortion return to the state. That's all that it says. Most states already have the laws in place. That's all that it says. So if they really cared about women and women's rights, what they would really, and women's reproductive health, which I don't know how that term got hijacked. It's just crazy how some people on the, redefine things and make up terms for things that don't actually mean what they say in order to push emotional buttons or get things to get passed. So if the companies really cared about the women and women's rights and reproductive rights, what they really would be doing, instead of paying for people to get abortions outside of their state, if their state doesn't offer them, is they would be setting up preschools and child care centers inside their buildings for women to be able to take their children to work. They would be able to set up mother's hours instead of ridiculing mothers or making them feel bad if they need a weekend off or if they need time to be with their children. They would be embracing motherhood and supporting it. They would be giving them longer maternity and paternity leave if they really cared about families and if they really cared about women. And the fact is that they don't. Do you know what saves them money? Abortion. This is a money thing, and people don't want to realize it, but it's a money thing. It costs, they're saying they'll pay up to $4,000 to transport a woman to get an abortion. It costs less to pay for your employee to abort her child than it does to pay for her maternity care and maternity leave. This isn't because they're good people and they want to help women, but these aren't the conversations that are happening around the country. And I'm watching as parents I'm looking as moms have to take second jobs now, and dads have to take second jobs. And the way our country is being run is burying people financially. And instead of trying to find ways to help and support families, what they're saying is, well, we'll just help you abort your child so that you don't have that. Because to me, that's a liberty, is to be able to have children. That is freedom, is to be able to have children. Because in some countries, people don't want to talk about it, but you're limited as to how many children you can have. And so being blessed to have children is liberty to me. And being able to raise your own child. I was a stay-at-home mom. We made a lot of sacrifices so that I could be home, but that was the most important thing to me and my husband. So how could companies support mothers better? Give them support in the office where they're working and let them actually be moms and go to work. And it's possible. We saw it through COVID, right? I loved meetings that I went to on Zoom where the baby was sitting on the mom's lap when she was having the meeting. Like, mothers are mothers 24/7. You don't leave it at the door when you go to work. And having these companies actually step up to the plate to support motherhood and to support fatherhood and to give them time to be with their families and to give them support inside the building and to give them childcare. When the all-day kindergarten bill went through here, the only conversation was, we need to get kids into all-day kindergarten because we need to get mothers into the workforce and out of the home. That was the conversation. Nothing was about the children. So let's stop talking about how we eliminate children in our society and push them aside and get them out of the way so that mothers can go to work, and start talking about the family and how we can support families in the workforce, because that's the conversation that we should be having. And I have notes here so I don't get completely off track, although, yeah, I think I just did. And I'm watching, so one of the reasons, and it was said on this page, I'm in my sunroom and it's really hot in here this morning. One of the reasons that was listed on my page from somebody who's a friend, we don't always agree, but we always have the conversation, and I really appreciate that about her, was, who's going to pay for all these kids that end up in foster care? First of all, this isn't just her. I've seen this conversation everywhere on social media right now. And the fact of the matter is, and a lot of people say, oh, Republicans only care about the baby when it's in the womb. They don't care about the baby when it's born. Well, here's the fact. I know a lot of conservatives, they're foster parents and adoptive parents right now. A lot. I know a lot of people, they're conservatives, that give back to their church and do reach out into communities to help kids and to help families. A lot. But where we actually, democratic policies have brought us to where we are today when it comes to no support for the family. There are attacks on the church. There are attacks on religion. They're transforming supports from community to the government, reliance on the government. That is all contributing to what's happening here today, right? Because back in the day, poor women had babies. My grandmother was one of 13. Poor people had babies. My grandmother's father died of pneumonia when she was young. Her mother had to raise 13 children on their own. There were 14, but one died very, very young, like a couple of days after birth. She had to raise 13 children on her own. You know how she did it? Community support, family, church. All the kids went to parochial school. The other aunts and grandmothers and people in the neighborhood supported that family and that mother, and that's how we did it. So when the welfare state came in, everything shifted to welfare. Everything shifted to the government. You want help, you come down here, you get food stamps, you get on EBT, you get on the government dole. But the problem is you can never get off of it. We've created a system where if you qualify for these programs and then you get a raise, you're kicked off of all the programs. So people actually tried to stay under a certain monetary level, a level of living, so they can continue to get those things, because the raise doesn't make up for what they're getting on this side. And it's food, it's heat assistance, it's things that they need to keep their families going, right? So we've created that system when it used to be really all about the community lifting up these poor families and helping them out. So when they talk about, the Republicans only care about kids in the womb and they don't care when they get out. No. We always support programs that give people a leg up and help them get out of poverty. We don't support programs that are just generational welfare that don't help families. They don't help the children. And all they do is keep these people from becoming who they were meant to be, to reaching their full potential in life. That's what we want for every child, every person, every family. We want people to reach their full potential in life and not have them on welfare systems. So every time somebody says that to me, the Republicans don't care, they don't want to invest in this, as a legislator, when I was up there, we tried to put in a ton of money for mental health care. They didn't want it. The Democrats voted it down because they didn't want to give the win to Sununu. We tried to put in money for substance abuse care. We got in a little, but the bulk of that money went to arresting addicts because that's what the Democrats wanted to do. They wanted to funnel money into overtime for state police and police because those are the unions that they are beholden to, and they don't actually want to find solutions or do the right things or get people treatment and help. We want to get people treatment and help. We want people to rise up out of their situation. It's better for them, but it's better for the economy. It's better for society in general. And we are liberty people. We want everyone to achieve liberty, be independent of the government. So that also isn't a reason. Being poor isn't a reason to abort your child. Thinking that a child might end up in foster care is not a reason to deny that child life. There are a lot of people that were in foster care, including Dr. Ben Carson, who ended up being amazing, amazing people. I'm sorry, he wasn't in foster care. His mother considered aborting him. Got my stories crossed. His mother considered aborting him. Dr. Ben Carson, because they were poor, Dr. Ben Carson, who was a presidential candidate, invented one of the most radical and life-saving brain surgeries in the world. He's world renowned. A friend of mine's son had to have that surgery and is alive because of it. So these aren't just clumps of cells, they're potential people doing potentially great things. So because somebody is poor isn't a reason. If that was a reason, most of us wouldn't be here. Most of us grew up poor and we didn't even know it. Being poor isn't a reason to end a life. So I'm trying to stick to my notes here. Oh, so there's a lot of videos going around right now because they are people who survived abortion. Now, I'm not talking about women who had abortions that went wrong and they survived the medical process. No, I'm talking about babies who were the mother attempted to abort them and they lived through it. And there's videos out there and they're talking about, like, my cat just jumped up on the table. You're going to see her tail. There are videos out there of them saying, like, look at my face. Should I have been denied life? And I'll tell you, in New Hampshire, when I was a state rep, we couldn't get it passed. And it was the Born Alive bill. Sorry, I'm kidding. And what that meant was if a baby survived abortion, they would be given medical treatment. And we couldn't get that passed. That was my hardest day as a legislator, to know that babies were surviving abortion and being left on tables to die or were being murdered outside of the womb because they survived abortion. But can you imagine, like, there was actually people that got on the House floor and said that, nope, that baby's born, it's still alive, we need to just let it die or kill it because that mother didn't want that baby, so why should she be strapped with it? So when you look at these videos and these people actually survived abortion and they tell their story, and you're able to realize, yeah, they're trying to convince you it's a clump of cells, it's a potential person. And I think that when you start putting faces to things and names to things, it makes it a whole lot more real. And someone had posted that, you know, when a woman is pregnant and she wants the baby, we all celebrate it, right? We have parties, we have baby showers, we buy things, we're all excited. But if she doesn't want it, it's not a baby. I mean, just think about that. If she doesn't want the baby, it's not a baby to be celebrated. If she does want the baby, it's an actual person. And I think that the justification in people's heads is something that we really need to talk about. Years ago, in order to increase cigarette sales, the cigarette companies glamorized smoking because women wouldn't smoke. It wasn't ladylike. They weren't buying cigarettes. When they glamorized it, when they catered to the women, they actually did a ton of research to figure out how women think, how to cater to women, how to get women to buy cigarettes. And when they figured it out through marketing, cigarette sales increased by over 300%. So with abortion, what they have, it's a big money market. People need to understand that this is a money market. Planned Parenthood makes a lot of money. Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood, wasn't doing it for the good of people. She was doing it, go look it up. Look it up for yourself. She was doing it because she wanted to make sure that poor people, sick people, minorities did not reproduce. Look it up. I'm not going to say anymore. Just look it up because I'm not going to get into the battle about it. But just go look it up. It's the truth. There are videos of her saying it out there. So you don't have to take my word for it. But what they have done is they have marketed abortion to women saying, I'm like, just, there's been so much on social media and so many videos. And I'm going to have to step away because it's really, my head is swirling. But a lot of it is so upsetting and troubling. There's this mom from the UK. She's on TikTok. But she was saying that she had an abortion, she had a baby, then she had an abortion, then she had another baby, and she was fine with it, and it was okay because the second baby, the timing wasn't right. When we're living in a society where babies are viewed as an inconvenience, when we can end a life because it's inconvenient, and then we wonder why our youth doesn't value life. You wonder why. We have devalued life in our society. I'm watching as women are freaking out and young girls are tweeting and doing TikToks and putting on Instagram, that's it, I'm leaving the country. Abortion's illegal, I'm leaving the country. Because evidently we have failed them in school and they don't understand how the Constitution works. Constitution is not in abortion is not in the Constitution. Also because they don't understand the difference between, they don't understand the 10th Amendment and what it means for the states to be able to have their rights to produce the laws around abortion. And I encourage them to leave the country. I encourage them to. I think they should travel a lot. I think they should go to the Middle East. I think that they should travel a lot and they should see what women's rights mean around the world. I really do. But when we have women who want to leave this country because they're convinced that abortion is illegal, their one priority in life is abortion, it isn't about the opportunities that you have here. It's about abortion. You're going to leave a country because you can't have an abortion. There are all kinds of ways to avoid having an abortion. But you're going to make life decisions and life choices based on the fact that someday you might have to make that decision or think you might have to make that decision. I just think it's really sad. We have failed our young women. And, this has been going on for a long time. We have had this war on women in this country, and it's not from the Republicans. They are trying to erase womanhood. They are trying to, yesterday, birthing people. They are trying to erase women in our society, and women and mothers. There is definitely an attack on motherhood and mothers. That same woman from the UK was saying how she tried to find childcare and she couldn't believe how expensive childcare was. And she wondered why there were so many stay-at-home moms in the United States. And wow, they must be so depressed and hate their lives. And I'm like, no, she's got 2 children. If you feel like being a mother depresses you, being a stay-at-home mother is some kind of a punishment, you should never have had children. And birth control is pretty readily available and free in most places, and through insurance and through hospitals. So the comments I have seen have been so upsetting. The way we talk about life, the way we talk about motherhood, excuse me, my allergies are getting worse with me today. So just the conversations have been awful. And I think that the only thing that we can do as people that believe in life is continue to put a face on it. These videos are really powerful. They say that they tried to run them through the Super Bowl, but they were banned. They wouldn't let them. I don't know if that's true or not. But they're out there. They're these people that survived abortions, and I think that their stories are really powerful. I think people to people, the stories are important. I wasn't as pro-life as I am now in the past. And the reason I became this pro-life was because I sat down with people who had been conceived through rape. And it was one of the most powerful conversations I ever had when the woman looked at me and said, my father didn't get the death penalty. My biological father didn't get the death penalty for what he did to my mother. Why should I get the death penalty for what he did? And that was one of the most powerful things. I will also say that as a nation, we need to cut back on regulations when it comes to adoption. I know so many good people, good families that want to adopt babies, and they can't. They don't meet the requirements for some reason. Our standards are so crazy, so it's easier to adopt a baby outside of this country than inside this country. So we need to, if the people really cared about life and babies and women and mothers, they would be looking into all of these things that we've talked about. How do we make adoption more accessible for people? How do we support women that find themselves in a situation where they're alone and they're pregnant? Because every time that I do a walk for life and we raise money for clinics that support unwed mothers or poor mothers, I get hit with comments. Oh my God, my kids, my boys walked with me in one of these, and we took a selfie and I put it up. It was Walk for Life. That was when I stopped putting them on Twitter, anything that we do. Because, and I really keep anything with my kids on this page and not the public page, because they were so attacked. They were just young men. I think it was a couple of years ago, so they were probably 12 and 14, and they went on a Walk for Life with me to walk and raise money for these clinics that help moms that find themselves in need. And they just attacked my kids, saying that I was raising these anti-woman boys and that I was raising I can't get into all the comments. It was just so bad. It was just so bad because they support life. Because you're not allowed to support clinics that support women. You're only supposed to support clinics that abort babies, which, another reason I became so pro-life is I sat down with women who had abortions and talked to them and saw the repercussions. I don't judge. I'm not judging if you have. I have compassion for women who have had abortions, and I have sat down with them, and there's physical scars, of course, but the emotional trauma that they carry for the rest of their lives is something that these people that Shout Your Abortion group doesn't discuss, doesn't talk about. And it really, abortion really hurts women. You know who it benefits? The abortion industry and men. Sorry guys, I know there's a lot of men that are pro-life and they don't agree with this. They don't agree with abortion, but it's a way out for men that they don't have to pay child support. They don't have to take care of their babies. They don't have to take care of anything. So when you're talking about how Marlboro and the other cigarette companies run by, men found a way to manipulate women into being the biggest consumer of cigarettes through their marketing, take a look at how the abortion industry has targeted women and the lies that they tell them. It's about the money. So I'm going to leave it there. If you need help, Real Options in Manchester and Nashua are two clinics that will help mothers in need. Like I said, we should be putting pressure on these companies that want to pay for people to fly to get abortions to instead put child care centers in their facilities, in their offices, and give mothers hours and support mothers that have to work, and so that they can both take care of their children and make a living at the same time. That's how you really support women and mothers and motherhood. So that's all. Just want to explain what actually happens because people were losing their minds. Want to give some suggestions on where we go from here, and just say, be kind to each other in these conversations. I know the other side isn't, but we need to be kind to each other. We need to also put faces behind the babies that are aborted to make sure that, you use these people that have, they're out there so that you can use them as an example. They survived an attempted abortion on their lives. And these stories where you're telling other people's stories and they're real and they're people, I think have a big impact. I hope that they do. Science has come too far for us to turn the other way and pretend that these aren't babies at conception. So that's all. I hope you guys have a great Sunday. It's super hot in here, which means it's super hot outside. And it's sunny and it's gorgeous. So I hope that you all have a great day. And I will put the link to the Real Options under here in case anybody needs that information. They also, I don't know if it's a couple of times a year, but every so often they have a course for women who have had an abortion, a healing course. It's not a judgment course. It's a healing course to help them through the emotions and the trauma of that abortion. It's also, something that someone who was raped and had an abortion said was that the abortion was the second violation and trauma that she had to endure. It's not a get out of, it's not a, I have an abortion and it all goes away. It just isn't. So lead with compassion. Have conversations that are compassionate and try to, it's just so tough and so many people get passionate about these conversations, but just don't fall into the accusations and don't fall into the mud with these people. Just lead with compassion. Okay? Have a blessed day.